and welcome to this year's final edition of the Poke Report. I'm Kylie Janes.
And I'm Asa Lucas. Cowboy fans, it is finally here, Bedlam Week. Normally this is just a game about bragging rights. However, this year, the Cowboys and Sooners will be battling it out for a potential bid in the Big 12 title game. Carly Stafford has the preview.
Number 14, Oklahoma State Cowboys travel down to Norman this weekend to face off against in-state rival Oklahoma. The OSU defense continues getting the job done this season. The Cowboys are doing their part, especially against the pass. Since the Week 4 matchup against West Virginia, the Cowboy defense has not allowed a passer to hit the 200-yard mark against them. Oklahoma State has been dominant defensively on third downs, holding opponents to just a 19% conversion rate. The Cowboys will rely on cornerback Rodarius Williams to take on a big role against the Sooners. Williams, a redshirt senior, has 10 total tackles this season. His improved play in man coverage has led him to allowing just 5 catches when lined up outside.
My main thing is, keeping guys' heads up and keeping the spirits high. I feel like my role is to be a true leader. I've been here before. A lot of guys have been here before, but I feel like with the seniority I got, just keep everybody level-headed, man. And like I said, Spencer Rattler's going to make plays. They got great guys. They got great coaches. They're going to make plays, so we don't have to respond.
Head coach Mike Gundy says his defense will be challenged this week with Spencer Rattler under center for the Sooners.
Defensively, this is a real challenge for us this week with the skill set that Oklahoma has on the perimeter and the most athletic quarterback that we've played up to this point.
The defensive line will be tested heavily against the solid Oklahoma run game, something the Cowboys struggled with last year against the Sooners. On the other hand, the Sooners' defensive line will go up against a young OSU offensive line missing 3 key pieces from earlier in the season. Prior to a bye week, Lincoln Riley's team thrashed Kansas 62-9 in Week 10. The Sooners pulled away early using 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 passing trip to pay dirt, and a field goal to build a 31-0 lead in the second quarter. The Cowboys trail the all-time Bedlam series 18-89-7 and are on a 5-game losing streak in the series. The Sooners won last year's head-to-head matchup 34-16. For the Poke Report, I'm Carly Stafford.
Thanks, Carly. If the Cowboys are able to pull off a win in Norman, the rest of the schedule sets up favorably for the Pokes. The final home game of the season will be next week against 2-6 Texas Tech. Then they will travel to Fort Worth to take on TCU, and finally they will finish out the season against the Baylor Bears in Waco, and a makeup game that was rescheduled. If OSU wins out, they will secure a spot in Arlington for the Big 12 championship game and possibly a spot in the college football playoff.
Parker, our regular anchor, has been in quarantine for the past 2 weeks due to contact tracing, but that hasn't stopped him from covering Bedlam. Parker, how are you feeling?
Yeah, Kylie, I am feeling good. Again, I am quarantined because of contact tracing, but I am still excited to cover this Bedlam matchup for sure.
That's awesome. Well, Parker's going to break it down for us from OU's perspective.
All right, I am here with Parker Thune from the University of Oklahoma Sooner Sports Pad, correct?
That is correct.
All right, and we're going to be talking about this Bedlam matchup, one that has meant not a lot in the past few years, but this year certainly means the most. So, Parker, what are some of the keys for OU in this game to possibly, get a win?
Yeah, Parker, well, I'll tell you what, it starts with big plays in the passing game because we've seen Oklahoma break games open in these Bedlam matchups in the past with big chunk gains down the field, long touchdowns. You think back to Baker Mayfield and Hollywood Brown in 2017, Kyler to Hollywood Brown in 2018, and then, of course, last year. Got a little trickery thrown in the mix. Nick Basquin going up top to Jalen Hurts for a touchdown that would give Oklahoma a lead they wouldn't relinquish up in Stillwater once again.
And I agree. I think that Oklahoma's defensive line, led by guys like Perion Winfrey and Ronnie Perkins, like you mentioned, have played as well as anybody in the country since, as you said, Ronnie Perkins returned from suspension. And that's going to be an issue for Oklahoma State in that their offensive line right now is banged up. And even when they were healthy, they were struggling. You saw that in, of course, the Tulsa game. But to me, I think the key for OSU is going to be, number one, eliminate turnovers, something that they struggled with early in the season. And then on defense, just be able to contain Spencer Rattler, be able to contain Ramondre Stevenson. Parker, I'm sure you would agree with me that OU doesn't have the same it guy at receiver on the outside that they've had. Of course, they had with CeeDee Lamb last year, Hollywood Brown years before that, going all the way back to D.D. Westbrook. Who do you think could be that breakout guy for OU that, the Oklahoma State secondary has to focus in on?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And that is the question mark for the Sooners, is who's going to be the guy to break it open in the receiving game? Because Spencer Rattler has a heck of an arm and can get the ball to anybody down the field. He can make every single throw that you could ask of a quarterback, but it comes down to who's going to be the guy on the other end that gets separation and creates a big play. I think a lot of people went into this 2020 season under the impression that guy was going to be Charleston Rambo. He hasn't really stepped up as much as many of those individuals imagined he would. I think Marvin Mims, who is probably the best true freshman in the country right now, has been the most pleasant surprise in this Oklahoma offense. And if you're looking at a guy that has that potential to emerge as a breakout star in this Bedlam game with a couple of big plays down the field, Marvin Mims is probably the most likely candidate.
One more question. So if I were to say what would be a part of Oklahoma's defense that Oklahoma State could exploit, what would you say would be their biggest weakness?
Well, it's got to be the secondary, Parker. And Tylan Wallace, I firmly believe when he is healthy, is the best receiver in college football. And he's a matchup nightmare for anybody. That's going to be the biggest challenge for Oklahoma on defense, in my mind, is being able to go up against Tylan Wallace, whoever draws that assignment, whether it's Trey Brown, whether it's Jaden Davis, whether it's maybe a guy like Jeremiah Cradell or even Buki Radley-Hiles. There's a number of guys that could draw that assignment. You're maybe even looking at Woody Washington, a safety turned cornerback this year for the Sooners. So it'll be interesting to me to see who it is that Alex Grinch rolls out to go up one-on-one with Tylan Wallace and how they're able to hang with him on the outside.
I'd like to thank Parker Thune so much from Sooner Sports Pad and the University of Oklahoma for meeting with me. And it's always nice to hear the other side's perspective, especially when it comes to big games like the one happening this Saturday. Well, I wish that I could be there in person with you guys, Kylie and Asa, but sadly, I am still here quarantined. But stay tuned for later in the show when I have a defensive breakdown. But for now, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thanks, Parker. Asa, I'm not from Oklahoma and neither are you, but after learning about this game, I can't believe how much this game means to people who grew up here.
Really, if OSU can pull off an upset and win in Bedlam this year, that would mean so much for this community.
Normally I do the Big 12 recap. However, our duties are handed off to Clay Cottrell, who will tell you how the Big 12 was last week and get you all caught up.
Hello and welcome back to the Big 12 recap. Only 4 teams in the Big 12 played this past weekend. West Virginia took down TCU in a 24-6 point victory, and Texas Tech came from behind and beat Baylor 24-23. Let's get into some highlights. The TCU Horned Frogs came into Morgantown off a 2-game win streak to take on the undefeated at-home West Virginia Mountaineers. West Virginia struck first with a powerful 15-play drive. After 4 third-down conversions, quarterback Jarrett Doge plows into the TCU end zone with 3 minutes left in the first quarter. Early in the second quarter, TCU kicker attempts a 32-yard field goal, and it's good. West Virginia 7, TCU 3. West Virginia gets a 1st and 10 on the TCU 26-yard line. Doge has the ball, he's looking, launches the ball, and it's TJ Simmons comes down with a catch in the end zone. Touchdown Mountaineers. The score at halftime, West Virginia 14, TCU 3. Midway through the third quarter, West Virginia kicker Casey Legg attempts a 42-yard field goal, and it squeezes in, giving the Mountaineers a more comfortable 14-point lead. Later in the third quarter, West Virginia kicker Griffin Kell attempts a 32-yard field goal. Mountaineers have the ball on the TCU 42. Doge is looking deep and drops it right to TJ Simmons on the 6-yard line, and he runs it in for the touchdown. West Virginia wins comfortably with a final score of 24-6. Now on to Texas Tech versus Baylor. Baylor coming into Lubbock with only 1 win against Kansas in September. Texas Tech also coming into the game with only 1 more win than Baylor. Texas Tech kicker Jonathan Garibay ends the Red Raiders' first drive by drilling a 48-yard field goal. Texas Tech quarterback Alan Bowman attempts a pass, but it's intercepted by Jalen Pitter and run back for a 26-yard pick six. Going into halftime, Baylor kicker attempts a 48-yard field goal, and it's good. Score at the half, Baylor 13, Texas Tech 6. With 11 minutes left in the third quarter, Charlie Brewer looks for passes in the pocket and decides to take it himself. 8-yard run for a Baylor touchdown. Charlie Brewer looking for receivers. It's picked off by Zach McPherson, running it back to the Baylor 35. After a pass to the 1-yard line, Taj Brooks gets the snap and punches it into the end zone. Baylor will block the extra point attempt, making the score Texas Tech 12, Baylor 20. Fast forward to the fourth quarter, and Texas Tech scores 9 unanswered points and clutches the win with a last-second field goal. Final score Texas Tech 24, Baylor 23. There's plenty of excitement to look forward to this weekend in the Big 12, especially if you're an OSU fan. The Cowboys will be facing off against the Oklahoma Sooners in the historic Bedlam game in Norman. The Sooners are coming into the game as a 7-point favorite despite their 5-2 record. To add to the drama, Oklahoma State wide receiver Tylan Wallace will be returning after sitting out during the Kansas State game due to a muscle injury. You can catch the Bedlam game at 6:30 on ABC or in person in Norman. Other Big 12 games this Saturday include Texas at Kansas. That game will be available on ESPN2 at 2:30. The Iowa State Cyclones face off against the Kansas State Wildcats in Ames, Iowa. That game will be available on Fox Sports at 3 o'clock. I know I'm looking forward to a weekend full of Big 12 football. Hopefully the Cowboys can defeat the Sooners just to make it that much better. Unfortunately, that's all the time I've got. Go Pokes, and back to you guys.
Thanks, Clay.
Football isn't the only sport with Bedlam action. OSU soccer took on the Sooners in Norman last Friday in a closely contested battle. Chase Risman has the recap.
The 11th-ranked Oklahoma State Cowgirls played their final game of the 2020 fall soccer season as they made the trip down to Norman to face the Oklahoma Sooners in Bedlam. The first half was defined by defense. The Cowgirls had several scoring opportunities in the first half, including this one by Grace Yoakum, but couldn't get the ball into the net. It was one of 11 shots the Cowgirls had in the first half. Despite that, the game was scoreless at intermission. In the second half, it was more of the same, with neither team being able to put the ball in the back of the net. But then the Cowgirls were given a penalty kick opportunity, and Yoakum took advantage, scoring to give the Cowgirls the lead. It was a lead they would not relinquish, as the Cowgirls held on to beat the Sooners by a score of 1-0. Afterwards, head coach Colin Carmichael praised his team for getting a win in a rivalry game.
I thought we deserved to win. I thought we got in some good positions in the first half and maybe could have done better, but we had to grind it out and we did it. So I'm really proud of them for finding a way to win, and it's never easy to come here and get the W for us, but we got it done.
The Cowgirls finished the season with a record of 6-2-1. For the Poke Report, I'm Chase Risman.
Thanks, Chase. The Cowgirls had another successful season with a record of 6-2-1 and third in the conference.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to talk about OSU's upcoming basketball season. Make sure to stick around. Welcome back to the Poke Report. Asa, it's late November, and that means it's time to talk Cowboy and Cowgirl basketball. The Cowboys' first game will be in Arlington against the University of Texas Arlington Mavericks. Levi Peckinpah breaks down the game for us and looks at our young squad.
The Oklahoma State basketball season is starting to shape up in front of the roster's eyes. OSU's roster is filled with great talent from last year's roster and one of Oklahoma State's best recruiting classes. The highly touted recruiting class is headed by potential top pick in next year's NBA draft, Cade Cunningham, top Canadian recruit Matthew Alexander Moncrief, and other very talented players that will be grinding for minutes. This year's team will have to step up after losing 4 of last year's starters and other valuable pieces off of the bench. These pieces were the spark for the Cowboys in many games, but the young players will have to learn how to become that spark that head coach Mike Boynton will need for this team.
The energy is really the biggest thing for us. I feel like, whichever team's bringing the energy there, 9 times out of 10, that's the team that's going to have the better year. That's the team that's going to win. So.
The Cowboys will take their prep to Texas as Oklahoma State will take on their first opponent in the Texas Arlington Mavericks. OSU will have to make sure they stay on their toes all season long because no one truly knows if a full season is actually going to happen.
On November 12th, the Ivy League announced they will not be participating in any winter sports due to the surrounding threat of COVID-19, while Texas A&M opted out of facing the Big 12's own West Virginia in the Crossover Classic tournament in South Dakota on November 29th. These early cancellations continue to make everyone wonder if it's possible to have a basketball season. On the other hand, Oklahoma State has a different mindset.
A lot of that is just going to be, we just got to figure out as we go. I really don't have a great answer. And what I try to do is focus on what we have today in front of us, try to be our best and manage. We're just trying to manage and give these kids an opportunity to have fun and compete as much as possible.
The Cowboys will get their first opportunity to compete against Texas Arlington on November 25th. For the Poke Report, I'm Levi Peckinpah.
Thanks, Levi.
The OSU Cowgirl season opener was scheduled for next week, but due to 3 positive COVID tests in the program, all activities have been paused and the season opener has been canceled.
To say that being a student athlete while also juggling practice and schoolwork is difficult is definitely an understatement. Imagine adding on a 40-hour work week to that. Nick Oldenburg has the story of one of OSU's hardest working Cowboys.
This year's Oklahoma State basketball team is young and filled with stars. They will be led by 5-star recruit Cade Cunningham, 4-star recruits Rondell Walker and Matthew Alexander Moncrief, and the team's longest tenured player, Isaac Likely. What might surprise some Cowboy fans, though, is the player who is the second longest tenured Cowboy, D. Mitchell, and how his tenure almost came to an abrupt end as a result of COVID-19.
And I told my mom that I was going to, potentially help out. She just wanted to make sure that I was doing what I wanted to do, and I was telling her, I would stop playing ball, in order to help her out and, to potentially help myself out moving forward. So, yeah, I thought I was going to be done playing ball.
D has been a hard-working member of the basketball team since the open tryouts were here in January 2019. Yet, he still has to work over 30 hours a week here at Walmart. His coach, Mike Boynton, details just how hectic of a schedule he has to go through.
Because again, on top of him working 30 to 40 hours a week, taking 19 hours of class, in which at this point right now he has 3 A's and 2 B's in the classes he's in right now, and he finished another class already and got an A in it.
D is not able to make it to all of the practices, but he is still finding ways to get better on and off the court. Coach Boynton says that he wants his players to emulate the Cowboy walk-on.
D is somebody I want all these guys to look up to because he's ripe for success. It's going to happen for him. I just believe in work. Work wins.
D and the Cowboys will kick off their season this Wednesday in Arlington, Texas against the UTA Mavericks. For the Poke Report, I'm Nick Oldenburg.
Thanks, Nick. Asa, I have a job and I go to school. I can't imagine what it's like to add competing in an NCAA tournament bid to my busy schedule.
No, I mean, you're already thinking about school, you're thinking about work, and then trying to fit in Canes at midnight. That really is just too much.
Here in Stillwater, we know that OSU has some of the best athletic facilities in the country. You've probably heard of Boone Pickens Stadium or the new O'Brate Stadium, but you probably haven't heard of the other quality venues that OSU has to offer.
And the NCAA has taken notice. Tyler Blackburn details its various decisions to host tournaments and championships here at Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State has some of the newest and nicest facilities in the Big 12 and across all of collegiate athletics for that matter. In February, universities across the country submitted bids to host various NCAA championship events in the upcoming years. Oklahoma State was one of those schools, and they won big by securing the opportunity to host 4 different events from 2022 to 2025. It's a big opportunity for the university to showcase their state-of-the-art facilities to the rest of the NCAA, and Athletic Director Mike Holder knows this, stating, quote, "What a great opportunity for all of us here at Oklahoma State to host these events. Our facilities are some of the best around, and I know that our people will make these events truly special for all involved."
The first championship OSU is set to host will be the men's and women's cross-country championships in 2022. Wrestling in 2023 at the BOK Center in Tulsa. The men's and women's tennis championships in 2024. And the NCAA men's golf regionals here at Carson Creek in 2025.
The last time the team hosted the championships at Karsten Creek in 2018, they won the NCAA team title on the backs of current pros Victor Hovland and Matthew Wolff. Holder also said he looks forward to having that kind of success again in 2025, and to creating more memories like lifting the tournament trophy here 2 years ago. This will also be the 9th time OSU Wrestling has hosted championships. The 34-time title holders most recently hosted the event in 2006. Both cross country and tennis will finally get the chance to host championships after their 2020 opportunity was washed away by the COVID-19 pandemic. Freshman tennis player Etienne Donnet talked about the opportunity given and looks forward to participating at the championships when the time comes his senior year.
If like this kind of competition is like in our university, it's always better for us. Like we will love to compete.
His coach talked about what it means for the university, city, and specifically the tennis program to have their first championship hosting opportunity in 2024.
I think that just shows the commitment of our school, athletic director and everyone who's helped tennis grow in this community to host the prestigious event.
OSU is a proud university with a long history of winning and success, and they will now get to show that off along with their facilities the next few years right here in Stillwater. For the Poke Report, I'm Tyler Blackburn.
Thanks, Tyler. We're going to take one more break, and when we get back, we're going to have an OSU defensive breakdown, and Kylie and I are going to make our picks for this week's college football.
What is it about Oklahoma State?
This place is special.
Believe me, I know. It's my home.
I've spent more of my life at OSU than away from it.
So here's what I can tell you.
There's just something about Oklahoma State.
We've had some pretty remarkable people pass through these walls.
People like Henry Ivan, Ed Gallagher,
Robin Ventura, and Barry Sanders.
I could go on and on about our All-Americans,
our national champions,
and our Hall of Famers. You could say the people are what make this place special, and you'd be correct.
But it goes beyond the people.
There's something else about Stillwater that attracts greatness.
Maybe it's the hard work that all of us have put in during our time here to make something of ourselves.
Maybe it's the trials we've endured as a family.
We've been tested in ways that most people cannot understand.
Yet we never waver
in who we are
and what we believe in.
We've proven we can win at the highest level.
But winning isn't the only reason why people choose Oklahoma State.
It's more than that.
Our fans don't just cheer for the Cowboys.
They are the Cowboys.
The culture here is bigger than all of us. It means something to be a Cowboy.
It's the values OSU stands for.
The values of being loyal and true.
Loyal and true.
Loyal and true.
Loyal and true. Loyal and true.
Welcome back to our final segment of the Poke Report. One of the biggest keys for this week's game will be defense. Parker Terrell breaks it down for us on why this team is so special on that side of the ball.
Defense wins championships. For the Big 12 Conference and Oklahoma State over the last few years, that age-old saying isn't true. This year, however, OSU is bucking that narrative with one of the best statistical defenses in not only the conference, but in the country. This year, OSU ranks in the top 15 in every major defensive statistical category save for one, including ranking first in third down defense. The unit returned 10 starters from last year's team, forming one of the most experienced groups in the conference. The improvement has come in defensive coordinator Jim Knowles' third year as the players have become used to his system of defense. One aspect that makes the defense so impactful is the flexibility. Head coach Mike Gundy spoke about how the team adjusts week to week for every team.
We move those guys around, and we have the flexibility with our coverages, with what Jim is doing, that we can adjust guys based on the teams we play each week and what their strength is offensively, in our opinion.
OSU plays what is known as a 4-2-5 defensive scheme. This type of defense utilizes an extra defensive back as opposed to a linebacker to increase the amount of speed on the field. This scheme, combined with Knowles' propensity for blitzing, have made turnovers and sacks a huge focus this season. Senior cornerback Rodarius Williams said he knew this unit was different long before the season even started.
That's made a difference from this year and previous years. You know, we got guys that's hungry. Like, man, I'm trying to get 2 sacks a game, and it's good, man. So got everybody on board. Like, everything is clicking on all cylinders, man. People are surprised by the defense, but it's been like that since fall camp. You know, we all been just buying in and knowing that we can make the individual play.
The rest of the country is taking notice of the Cowboy defense. Senior safety Colby Harvell-Peel and Williams each received an invite to the Reese's Senior Bowl, an annual event that showcases the nation's top upperclassmen in front of dozens of NFL scouts and coaches. Harvell-Peel and fellow safety Trey Sterling were injured for the Kansas State game. OSU will need both of them to be healthy if they want to stop the high-powered offense of Oklahoma and get a big win in Bedlam this weekend, a game in which will determine who goes to the Big 12 title game. For the first time in a long time for OSU, we'll see if defense can truly win a championship. For the Poke Report, I'm Parker Terrell.
Great insight, Parker. All right, Asa, it is now time for our favorite part of the show, which is our game day picks. Our first game is going to be Kansas State and Iowa State. Who do you got?
I got Iowa State winning by 42-21, and that's going to be behind Brock Purdy. He's going to throw at least 4 touchdowns over that Kansas State defense.
I like it, Asa. I am going to go with K-State on this one. I think they've done a great job on the road this year. Big game, 38-21 on this one.
Okay, now between Indiana and Ohio State, who do you got, Kylie?
I am going to take Ohio State on this one. I think Justin Fields has been dominant this year. Big game, 48-17 on this one.
Well, I love a good Cinderella story. I'm going to predict that Indiana is actually going to win in double overtime against Ohio State from a score of 38-35.
All right, and then for our very last game, our Bedlam matchup, Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Who do you got?
This one's going to be very fun to watch. I think Oklahoma State is going to shock the world. Oklahoma State's going off a game-winning field goal from a score of 31-28.
I like it, Asa. I am also going to go with Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be a big game for Chuba Hubbard, big game for Spencer Sanders. Oklahoma State on this one, 31-17.
That'll be fun.
All right, we got some really good games this week. For the last time on the Poke Report, I'm Kylie Janes.
And I'm Asa Lucas, and we want to send a special thank you to Parker Thune at the Sooner Sports Pad for his insight, and as well from everybody who's taken the time to watch the show this year. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
Because of Cass, I'm more confident behind the camera.
Because of Cass, I have found lifelong friends and amazing mentors.
Because of Cass, I will be able to teach English in Cambodia with the Peace Corps.
Because of Cass, I had the opportunity to intern on Capitol Hill.
Because of Cass, I got to sing at the Vatican.
Because of Cass, I was able to present my research and I won a scholarship for it.
Because of Cass, I'm Miss Black OSU.
Because of Cass, I can help someone else find their voice.
Because of Cass, I'm able to not only have 1, but 2 internships for the summer lined up already.
Because of Cass, I am confident in leadership positions.
Because of Cass, I'm excited for my future and the opportunities I have within my major.
Because of Cass, I can do it, and so can you.
and welcome to Behind the Line. I'm your host, Alex Teskey. Joining me today is the lovely Ian Nickel. Ian, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me back.
Of course, we're still filling in for Parker. Parker, we miss you. Can't wait to see you back at the show on Saturday. But until then, we have some sports to talk right now. Big 12 happened this weekend. We're going to start off with the Baylor Bears' heartbreaking loss to Texas Tech. The final for that game was 24-23. Tech came back and scored 12 points in the fourth quarter. Ian, what stood out with you, or what stood out to you during that game?
I think just Texas Tech's resilience in that game. You know, they're 2-5 going into the year, or going into this game. You know, not a whole lot to play for, but you know, they got down early, 20-6, and then they were down 23-12 heading into that third quarter or the fourth quarter. You know, they just kept on playing. They had a really good goal line stand, which had a devastating hit on Charlie Brewer. It's one of the hits of the year, I think.
Baylor started out pretty strong. You know, early in that game they got that pick six coming for that, but then you know that the final drive from Tech, that letting 12 points go in the fourth quarter just can't happen, especially, you know, and tough way to lose with those game-winning field goals. That's heartbreaking. You know, you watch that and you're like, ooh, you wish it didn't happen. Looking at the conference as a whole, first place is wide open right now. We have Iowa State is in first in the conference. They're 5-1. OSU is here's the drive that I was just talking about, the pick six from Baylor early on in that game, first quarter, to take the lead 6-3 over Texas Tech.
It was a nice looking pass right there, and then here's I think this is part of the game.
This was the drive to get them down the field. Yeah. Missed tackle there, gets them over the 50, pushes them out of bounds near the 35.
The cool thing about this drive is that it's not a normal Texas Tech drive. It was a 12-play, 79-yard drive. Really, not. Texas Tech is more air raid, and they usually go pretty quick, but just a nice consistent drive right there, just 12 plays, and they got it done.
Yeah, they definitely got the edge on that one. Back to looking at the conference as a whole. OSU's second, they're 4-1, so it's tied with Iowa State just with the one loss, and OU's behind them 4-2. Obviously, this weekend is Bedlam. We'll talk more about that later. Don't want to get into that right now. Looking at the AP rankings, OSU's 14, Iowa State 17, OU 18, and Texas 22. What are your thoughts looking at the conference right now?
I feel like they're not giving Oklahoma State a lot of credit when it comes to having a pathway to the playoff, because I think it's still there if they continue to win out. You know, just a couple dominoes need to fall. I think you look at Georgia's out.
Right.
We should jump them. BYU, I don't think their schedule is credible enough to for BYU to get favored there. Cincinnati could lose, and then they're done. There's a couple of ways. I mean, Oregon
and Texas A&M's fifth right now, but they had last week postponed and this week's postponed as well. So that's another thing. You know, if these teams who aren't playing games or are playing weaker opponents, you know, we talked about this last week. Is the AP poll like really allowing the best teams to rise to the top?
Yeah, and we'll find out. I think next Tuesday is when the college football playoff rankings debut, which that will give us a better feel of where they're at. And you know, if Oklahoma State wins, I think they'll put us in the top 10. I think that having that credible win, if it's a statement win, because that's going to be the statement win, that could propel us to the top 10. And there could be, you know, maybe some hope there.
Especially now that OU is back. You know, they kind of had a rough start to their season, but they're 18th now in the nation, as I said. So definitely a lot is riding on that game. And like I said, we're going to have Chris Becker on later to kind of go in more depth into Bedlam. Looking ahead this weekend at some other Big 12 games, Texas versus Kansas. Should be an easy win for Texas. They would probably move to 5-2 on their season. The game that I'm really interested in is K-State versus Iowa State. You know, K-State started out strong, then they lost their quarterback. Freshman Will Howard is in. Oklahoma State did beat them. It wasn't a pretty win. They were definitely a tough opponent. You know, Iowa State is a very solid team, very well practiced. Do you think K-State has a chance, or do you think the Cyclones will just beat the Wildcats?
I think Kansas State does have a chance. I think it's one of those things where, you know, because it's a weird year, and then
anything can happen.
I think both teams are similarly set up to where it's going to be closer. Like the spread right now is 11. I'd probably bank toward K-State winning. I think Iowa State's going to win, but I think it's going to be
a closer game. Yes. I agree, for sure. When we come back, we'll be talking more in depth about college sports as a whole, looking at last weekend and up ahead. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Behind the Line. We just spent a couple minutes talking about the Big 12, so now looking at the NCAA across the country. COVID has been an issue in the SEC. You know, last weekend only 2 SEC games were played. Texas A&M, their game has been delayed again. They're, like I said earlier, they're currently ranked 5th, and this is their second game delayed. Do you think that should impact their ranking? I know a couple weeks ago we talked about Wisconsin having only played 2 games and still being ranked pretty high. What are your thoughts on that?
I think because they've played enough games out of the year, because they're 6-1, that it'll probably be okay. For a team like Wisconsin or Oregon, if they were to have a game be delayed again,
right, that
to where they're like 5-0, that probably doesn't bode well for the college football playoff. I mean, they're a good team, but they just haven't played enough games to be considered like. Especially
with Big Ten and Pac-12 both having shortened seasons already compared to Big 12, SEC, ACC. You know, it's a sticky situation, I think, for all those teams. You know, I think we'll know a lot more, like you said, next Tuesday when the college football playoffs comes out. Looking at the Big Ten, Indiana, they're undefeated right now, ranked 9th. They have beaten Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State. They play Ohio State this weekend. What do you think is going to happen there? Do you think the Hoosiers have a chance? The game is in Columbus.
I want to give them a chance. I can't. Ohio State is just too good. They match up with them really good. The talent discrepancy is just far and away Ohio State, and I want Indiana to win. I really do. I think it's a fun story.
Everyone wants to see them.
And look, we want to see like 9-win Indiana. You know.
When was the last time that happened? You know, the Hoosiers always get made fun of for their football team.
I genuinely don't know, but it'd be nice to see them win. I don't think they will. The spread is 20.5.
Do you think it'll be closer than that, or do you think Ohio State's just going to run away with it?
I don't know. It could be in that range. I could see it being a 3-touchdown game.
I'm excited to see it. You know, it's an 11 a.m., so obviously the game will be done before Bedlam happens. So hopefully that'll be a good game. Also in the Big Ten, Wisconsin. They are technically undefeated, and they've won, I believe, by 38 points both games, but they have still only played 2 games and are yet ranked 10th. Do you think that they are as good as they should be ranked. You know, this weekend they have Northwestern in Illinois. Northwestern's ranked 19th. If they lose, how far do you think they'll drop?
I think they'll drop about 9 spots to where Northwestern's at. Because the thing is, like, you look at Wisconsin's schedule, Illinois, they stink.
Right.
Michigan, they really stink.
Right.
And now you have a credible opponent in Northwestern who,
This is truly their first opponent of the season.
Yeah. I mean, Northwestern's good. I don't know how good they are, though. You look at their schedule. I mean, they played Purdue last week. Purdue was undefeated. They're pretty good. They beat Maryland, which I think could favor them on a little later. They beat Iowa. They beat Nebraska. 2 teams that are...
Nebraska. I hate to say it. We're not that good.
Iowa's okay.
Right.
They're 2.
Iowa beat Minnesota last weekend.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, I think Northwestern has a better shot to get into the playoff. I don't think they will. But compared to Wisconsin, they're 2-0 right now. They finished the season 6-0. I mean, they have to beat Ohio State.
Right. But... I think, this weekend there's a lot riding on that. Do you think that out of all the Big Ten schools, Ohio State is the only reasonable person or team to make it into the playoffs? Or do you think if Indiana wins out, do you think they'll make it?
I think it has to be Ohio State just because, brand recognition. That's going to be a big problem, because you want your big brands in there. And I think if USC continues to win, we could see a big jump there because they're a national brand. But they haven't been playing super great.
And I think right now, actually, I saw CBS Sports is predicting OSU to play USC in a bowl game if neither of those teams win out or neither of those teams make it to the playoffs. So
I'll take that, honestly. That's a great thing. Honestly, like I don't want to make the playoff. I really don't. Like I don't really want to lose to Clemson or Ohio State. I want to win. I want to win the final game of the year. And you win the Big 12 championship. You get a New Year's Six bowl. I wouldn't mind that going to the Cotton Bowl. I think that's a good win. That's a good.
It's
end of the season.
Definitely an interesting college football season for a lot of teams. Just quick note: Tulsa, first opponent of the year, gave OSU some trouble. They're ranked 25th. First time in 10 years, so congrats to Tulsa Hurricanes. When we come back, we're going to switch over to some pro sports. Don't go away.
Hi everybody, my name is Emily Shooping. I'm your marketing coordinator for the Made in Oklahoma Coalition. I'm coming to you with an amazing opportunity. We are teaming up with the Ocali Media Group at Oklahoma State University. We want to tell your story on the following platforms: streaming, newspaper, and digital. This opportunity will not only allow your story to be told locally, but nationally as well. I am so excited for each of you to join in on this tremendous opportunity. This will not only be good for your business, but it will be good for our great state of Oklahoma. You can be expecting an email from me soon with more details about this opportunity. Local has a name, local has a face, local has a flavor. The Made in Oklahoma Coalition.
Welcome back to Behind the Line. Alex and Ian here, ready to talk about some NFL injury updates. Last weekend, Drew Brees of the Saints, he went down. They have analyzed his injury and diagnosed him with 5 cracked ribs and a collapsed lung.
Yikes.
Jameis Winston came in and they led the team to beat the 49ers. Here is the play that he went out against the 49ers. Just a really tough hit to the rib area. They came out and said that they believe that 2 of the ribs were cracked in 2 weeks ago game against the Buccaneers and Tom Brady, in which they destroyed the Bucs. Drew Brees got up and walked after this, and when they were like 5 cracked ribs and a collapsed lung, I was like, I couldn't do that. The team is optimistic that he could come back 2 to 3 weeks, but it could be longer. If he is out, do you think Jameis Winston can lead the Saints to a win the next couple weeks, or where do you think that puts the team?
Oh yeah, absolutely. If you look at their schedule, they have to play the Falcons twice.
Okay.
They stink.
Mhm.
They have to play my Broncos. They stink. Yeah.
Sorry.
We're injured. And then they have the Eagles on the 13th. So that's 4 weeks of games.
Pretty easy schedule then.
And then after that you have the Chiefs, and maybe you could hope Drew Brees comes back then. But this is a good opportunity for Winston to prove that he is a starting quarterback in this league, and I think he truly is, and I think he'll shine in these next couple of games.
Another injury that happened this weekend, Nick Foles of the Bears had a scary last-second injury. Here it is. It's just a hard hit. Nothing out of the ordinary. He just went down on his right side, pretty hard there, and he had to be carted off of the field. It was the last seconds of the game. The Bears were driving down the field. Ultimately, the Vikings did win that game 19-13.
Dang.
Thankfully, it's not as bad as they initially thought. They believe that it's just a combination of a strain and a bruise for his hip, but he is scheduled for more tests today, so they will know more. But did you watch the game? Did you see that happen?
That's the first time I've seen that. That's a really weird spot.
It's just a weird
injured.
area to lay down and get hit on. So hopefully he is okay with that. On a happier note from the NFL, the Hail Mary pass, Kyler Murray threw an amazing 43-yard Hail Mary. Here it is. He throws it to DeAndre Hopkins in the end zone. There's 2 seconds left in the game. I believe Hopkins had 3 defenders. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
It took them, I was listening to the audio from that. It took everyone a second. The crowd went wild, but until the refs gave the signal, see how happy there's Larry Fitzgerald and DeAndre Hopkins together. That was surreal. Put the Cardinals up over the Buffalo Bills 32-30 to win the game. What did you think about that?
I think one of the first things I thought is, wow, Bill O'Brien's an idiot. I mean,
right. I saw so many things on Twitter about that.
You gave up the best receiver in the NFL for David Johnson and a second-round pick. The best receiver in the NFL. And now Bill O'Brien's out of a job. The Cardinals are 6-3. They're doing better than I think I expected them to.
Me too.
Yeah. Bill O'Brien, you're a clown. And that's why you're out of the NFL right now. I'm sorry.
All right, switching leagues. NBA draft. I know you watched it. You have a lot of thoughts on this. Tell me your thoughts.
Well, the NBA draft is tonight,
sorry,
actually. No, you're good. I mean,
preview the draft then.
It's really weird because there was no March Madness this year. You can't really get a good look at a lot of those prospects. There's a couple that I happen to really like. I like Anthony Edwards. He should be a number 1 pick tonight.
And he was from Georgia, correct?
Yes, he is from Georgia. Had a really decent season. 6'3", 225 pounds. He's just a really good player, and I think he should be number 1. LaMelo Ball's in there too. I don't really know what to make of LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball's a really hard player to scout. He shoots a lot. He kind of shoots like Westbrook, where it's super inconsistent, and sometimes it goes in, sometimes it's not. But he's 6'7". He's still growing apparently,
wow.
So he can play kind of like a Ben Simmons role there if he continues to grow. Another person I like, Obi Toppin from Dayton. He could play the stretch 4. He's projected to go around 6th, but honestly, with this draft, we don't really know. We could see what happens here, and then finally, I'm very curious to see where James Wiseman goes, who went to Memphis for 3 games. There was a weird NCAA scandal, which wasn't really a scandal, but it should. I'm very interested to see where everyone's going to go because we don't really have a good look at everybody because there was no NCAA tournament. A lot of people make draft assumptions based on how somebody plays in the NFL and the NBA draft.
In the March Madness tournament.
March Madness, yes,
right.
yes.
Definitely a lot to look out for there. Quick little headline, Dustin Johnson did win the Masters last week. We kind of previewed that. Congrats to him. That was his first green jacket, 2nd career major championship. Pretty good run for him there in Augusta. When we come back, we're going to have Chris Becker from the Ocali to come over here and preview the Bedlam game. Stay with us. Nice.
Hi, I'm Will Joyce, the Mayor of Stillwater. As mayor, it's my responsibility to help develop plans for a variety of resident needs, including roads, emergency services, and utilities. Some of those services are paid for with federal money that the government distributes to states and communities based on Census Bureau data. This is your tax money coming back to our community, but if you or your household aren't counted, we lose nearly $1,200 per person to places like Texas, Kansas, and Arkansas. So help bring that money back to local communities by filling out the 2020 census. This year, it's easy to do. You'll receive a postcard in March 2020 with a unique code for your address. Using that code, simply go online, call, or request a paper copy of the census and fill it out. I want to make sure that you and your whole household are counted in the 2020 census. It's important not just to Stillwater, but to all of Payne County.
Welcome back to Behind the Line. We are joined by Chris Becker, Ocala football reporter. Chris, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. So before we preview Bedlam specifically, the Cowboys have been struggling with injuries the last 2 weeks with Tylen and Chuba. Do you know anything? Are they healthy? We had this bye week, and I know Coach Gundy was really excited to try and get them all healthy. What have you heard?
On Monday when we talked to Coach Gundy about it, he said we'd know more later in the week, and we don't talk to him again until after the game.
Right.
So he knows, but we don't. If the injury was as minor as they made it sound to Tylen last week, Tylen should be able to go, and I'm sure he wants to be back on the Bedlam field. He missed last year because of his torn ACL, so he wants to be there, and he'll play if he can. I think Chuba's was just a little banged up at the end of the game, but he should be fine. LD Brown was banged up too. There are injuries all over that field. Colby Harvell-Peel should be back.
Because he didn't play at all last week,
right? He was out all last week with a hamstring injury. Hopefully he's back. Trey Sterling's been banged up the last 3 weeks. There's injuries all across the board. Luckily this team's so deep that injuries hurt, but it doesn't knock the team out because they're so deep all across the board.
Well, hopefully the team is all healed up and ready for Saturday.
Yeah, I got a couple of questions. I mean, when we look at OSU's defense, one of the big weaknesses that we saw in that Kansas State game was the running game. There's a couple of times where either Will Howard or one of K-State's running backs was able to just break through the middle pretty easily. And they were saying that they've been game planning this game like they were Kansas State. What do you think we're going to see differently with that Oklahoma State defense against the run?
Right. I think a lot of it's going to come down to Trace Ford and out of that Leo position, that rushing linebacker. I think you'll see him drop into coverage a couple more times, maybe play some contain, spy on Rattler. Rattler's a mobile guy just like Will Howard. They can sling it a little better than Will Howard can. It's going to be tough to stop somebody like that. I was talking to Lincoln Riley yesterday, and he was talking about Spencer Sanders, but it goes the same way for Spencer Rattler, for OSU's defense stopping them. He's one of those guys that it's hard to game plan for just because he can do it all. He can throw, he can run, he can create plays, and even if you can have somebody, his sole job's to watch him and still fail because he's just that good. So I think Rattler's grown into a pretty solid quarterback the last couple of weeks after being benched against Texas.
Right.
But I think it's going to be tough, and it's going to come down to the linebacker play and the play of the outside linebackers like Trace Ford and Eamon Ogbongbemiga and Malcolm.
You kind of touched on this, but this is Spencer Sanders' first Bedlam and Spencer Rattler's first Bedlam. What does our offense need to do to win against the Sooners defense? And Spencer Sanders and Rattler are both kind of a dual threat quarterback. So what are the similarities there? Just give me your opinion on that.
Yeah, it's going to come down to quarterback play. There's no ifs, ands, but you can talk about the offensive line injuries. We can talk about defensive secondary issues in OU. We can talk about offensive line issues outside of Creed Humphrey on OU. You can talk about a lot of problems on both these teams, but it's going to come down to quarterback play. Both quarterbacks have had their fair share of turnover problems this year. Both teams. Spencer Rattler was benched against Texas. His turnovers cost Oklahoma State the game from Spencer Sanders against Texas. So. This is going to be tough. It's going to come down to their play, and it's a rivalry game. There's going to be a lot of emotions, a lot of build-up from fans and teams alike, because a lot of these guys are from Oklahoma. Obviously, Rattler's from I think Arizona, and Spencer Sanders from Texas. But there's still that emotion there that goes into this, and it's gonna have to come down to them, and they're gonna have to make plays and give their team a chance.
I want to talk to you about Chuba real quick. The last couple of games against Texas and Kansas State, he had 25 carries and 72 yards against Texas, and then 6 carries and 31 yards against Kansas State. What is going on with him? I know he was hurt in that Kansas State game, but it feels like he's not doing as well. Is it because of the expectation for him, or is there something that are teams able to prepare for him a little better?
I think a little bit of it's the expectation. I think OSU fans were expecting, another season just like last year.
Right.
But those seasons don't come around very often. And I think a lot of it is the emergence of LD Brown. I think LD Brown deserves a lot of credit for this.
He's had a great season.
Right. He's had a remarkable season compared from last year, where there were people who were thinking, like, this guy is he's not the answer. We need another number 2 back behind Chuba. But, his season has made him split carries, kind of like what we see in the Browns with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. It's the same situation. You're 2 good running backs who, both deserve their fair share of carries. So you're going to get it. And yeah, Chuba was banged up against a K-State team, and this offense just hasn't really been doing all that well either. Chuba's not doing well. Spencer hasn't been, elite like we thought. The only one who's really continued the numbers from last year are Tylen, and that's just because, he gets 20 carries. He gets 20 looks a game. So, this offense has to be better all around. Spencer has to play well. Chuba's got to, step up a little bit. And LD Brown just has to, just keep doing LD Brown.
Do what he's doing.
Yeah, do what he's been doing the first few games. Don't go back to last year's.
I think it'll be a good game. I'm excited to watch it. Hopefully we get the edge on this game for sure, and we want to get that Bedlam win. Thank you so much for joining us today, Chris. For Ian Nickel, I'm Alex Dusky. Thank you so much for tuning into Behind the Line today. Be sure to tune in Saturday to our pregame show. You can watch on Suddenlink Channel 112, Apple TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and Roku. Have a great weekend, and go Pokes!
Welcome back to another episode of the Pregame Report, everyone. I'm Lainey Gerber, and across from me is Parker Terrell, as always. And Parker, it is the most wonderful and stressful time of the football season, and that is Bedlam.
Absolutely. And this year, it means so much. with basically this is basically a Big 12 semifinal game essentially, because the winner of this game definitely is in the driver's seat to make it to the Big 12 championship game. So I'm excited, Lainey. You know, it's going to be a dreary, kind of cool day down in Norman for this game. Yeah, so prime football weather. So, you know, I can't wait.
Yeah, and this is OSU's best perceived chance at winning Bedlam in the last few years anyways. So
for sure. I'm trying to think back. I mean, 2017, Rudolph's last year, we felt good going into that, even though we were a 2-loss team. This year we're only a 1-loss team. So I agree with you. We're ranked higher than OU, although we are not favored to win in this game. But I do think that this is as good of a chance as we've had, and we'll talk about why coming up in the show. But as you said, this is a good chance for us this year.
Absolutely. Well, let's recap what happened in Manhattan 2 weeks ago, because we're coming off a bye, so that could benefit the Cowboys a little bit.
Yeah, I was headed to a wedding, so I was listening to this game on the radio, and then once I got there, I may have been sneaking a peek at my phone during the wedding. Sorry to those involved, but no, it was a really good game. OSU, of course, winning 20-18 on what was a defensive touchdown that secured the win. Jason Taylor, the second, with an 85-yard fumble return for the Cowboys late in that game. You know, a lot of guys were injured, Lainey, and it was just one of those games that if you're going to have a really good season, if you're going to have a Big 12 championship winning season, or possibly even the college football playoff, you've got to win games like this, and they got it done up against it with LD Brown, who people were saying wasn't even going to play before the game. He ended up being our best offensive player, 15 carries for 110 yards, and a huge run that broke it, wide open in the fourth quarter. So it was a gritty win with a lot of guys out to get a win up in Manhattan, and it was really went a long ways, I think, towards our confidence for this season.
Not to mention, not only were a lot of guys out, but Mike Gundy said they didn't really practice that much that week because so many guys were out for contact tracing, and so yeah, a lot didn't happen that week.
And also,
before.
if you remember, we talked about it 2 weeks ago during the pregame. Kansas State was coming off a loss as well. They were, champing at the bit to get a win. And as were we, coming off a loss against Texas. So it was a dogfight to the end. I thought that OSU, really messed up at the end in terms of clock management. K-State got the ball with like 2 minutes left to try to go win.
Yeah.
They only needed a field goal to win. And but thankfully we got an interception to seal the deal. So the defense, again, won us a game. And that's something that hopefully we can see tonight in Norman. This stellar defense, honestly.
Yeah, Kansas State was really it was almost two different games in one. The Cowboys started out super slow. K-State was up 12-0 at the half, which is a very low-scoring game. So it wasn't looking well.
Well,
and then,
I mean, Spencer Sanders only had 108 yards on 14 completions.
Yep.
He was obviously banged up. He was dealing with, lower leg injury. He was dealing with a shoulder injury, I've heard. So for him to be able to go out there and, play hard is commendable, but you could tell early that he just wasn't himself.
Yeah.
And Chuba Hubbard played in the game, was completely ineffective. He was injured as well, also was not able to practice in the week. So Tylan Wallace didn't play in the game, dealing with a muscle injury suffered in practice, but he did come on for the onside kick, which he batted out of bounds.
Yeah.
To secure that. So it was just a mess in terms of availability, guys that were hurt or out due to contact tracing. So to get a win like that on the road against a team that was, wanted a big win as well was huge, I thought.
Yeah, those injuries really affected the team more than you usually see an injury or just people being out.
I mean, it was our main guys.
Yeah, and it was a lot of them too. It wasn't just one or two, it was a lot of them. And so there was O-line trouble because there were guys out there, obviously.
Starting left tackle was out, Jake Springfield. We also had a lot of guard injuries. Rye Schneider was injured, our center. So we were dealing with those. Then Chuba Hubbard's hurt. LD Brown's hurt but still plays. Spencer Sanders is hurt but still plays. And Tylan Wallace is so hurt that he didn't play.
Yeah, he was still in pads though, which was optimistic.
I think it was an emergency.
Oh, it was absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there's an onside kick, we'll put Tylan in because he's good in those situations, and that's about it.
But our defense stepped up as they did against Tulsa, as they did against West Virginia. So I mean, that's the story of the game, is we were able to get a win despite so many injuries on the offensive side of the ball, not to mention the injuries on the defensive side of the ball with, our captain on defense, Colby Harvell-Peel, was out. So, and Trey Sterling was in and out of the game with injuries. So just an all-around gritty performance from OSU, something that honestly, you haven't seen in the past very many times for an Oklahoma State team. I think back to 2018 when we went up to Manhattan with Corn Dog, Taylor Cornelius, and just laid a complete egg, got, totally thrashed in that game against a very mediocre Kansas State team that I only believe won 5 games.
Yes.
So to again, go up to Manhattan against a hungry Kansas State team and get this kind of win with all the people that were hurt, injured, or out due to contact tracing, huge for this team, huge going into a bye week, and now huge playing this game tonight.
That game in Manhattan really turned around when freshman Brendan Presley got his first college touchdown, and the first touchdown for the Cowboys of the game, and that was halfway through the third quarter.
So, yeah, mostly a special teams guy for the Cowboys so far this season. Hasn't seen a lot of playing time on offense. They bring him in for one play on just a simple jet sweep, and he gets a touchdown, broke a tackle in the backfield. It was great to see, and I think that he's going to be involved tonight as well. I know Tylan Wallace is going to be back, and we'll talk about the news on the players playing a little bit later, but I think we need to get more touches for this guy. He's obviously a playmaker. He's a guy that just because he doesn't have a lot of experience doesn't mean that he isn't talented, and he's seen more reps in practice, I'm sure, just getting more comfortable with the speed of the college game, and for him to get a touchdown and what was his first meaningful play for OSU was huge, and I think that we'll see him tonight for sure.
Yeah, prior to the pregame show, so the pregame show, when we were talking, we were saying that we were hoping that Gundy is just going to be throwing out so many plays, so many schemes, switching guys out when they need to be switched out, like really playing aggressively today against Bedlam, because that's what's going to need to happen for us to win. And so I liked seeing Brendan Presley be in 2 weeks ago against Kansas State, because it kind of showed that he's willing to throw in a guy who hasn't played yet. He does something well, so maybe he's going to use Brendan again in those situations, take him in and out, because opposing defenses aren't really looking at him that much yet. He's a freshman. He's a special teams guy. He's only, now they might be a little more aware.
Well, I'm saying now you can be used as a decoy.
Yeah, exactly.
If you bring him in on a fake jet sweep, maybe run, like an RPO to the other side, something like that. Him scoring that touchdown was huge in terms of defense or in terms of scheme, because now you can bring him in and you don't even have to use him, but the defense has to be aware. Talking back to your point about Gundy, that's his main knock. He's the winningest coach in Oklahoma State history. He's taken us to more bowl games and led us to more bowl wins than anyone by far in the history of our school. But that doesn't change the fact that he's only won twice against OU, and frankly, one of those wins was complete luck when Bob Stoops made a terrible decision to re-punt to Tyreek Hill. So it's the main knock on Mike Gundy is his performance in this game, how we've been too conservative at times, how we've, just looked tight to start, and he has, coached tightly. At this point, you got to lay it out all on the line. You've got a team that's as talented as you've had since 2011. That is an objective statement. There are legit NFL guys on this team.
A lot.
Yeah. So you've got to throw out all the stops. OU is dealing with COVID issues. They are not at full strength right now. To get this win in Norman would be huge. But honestly, where you're ranked higher than them, there's a chance to go to the Big 12 title game. And if you win out, a chance to go to the playoff. You got to put everything out there tonight.
And you hear that conversation around Gundy a lot. Every single game, he's playing too conservative. He doesn't know when to do so many things. So hopefully that conversation changes today for Bedlam. But another really important part to these teams is going to be special teams today. And Adam and Alex are going to tell us who has the edge in special teams today.
Yeah, Laney, thank you so much. Adam Engel alongside Alex Dusky, filling in for Ian Nichols. Ian, he is in a great position right now. He scored some tickets to the game, so he is down there in Norman. But Alex, who has the edge for special teams?
I'm going to have to go with the Cowboys. We've been talking about Alex Hale, his talent all season long. I mentioned him early in the preseason. He has had such a near-perfect season.
Absolutely.
He's 13 out of 14 for field goals. He's made 18 out of 18 extra points. The longest field goal he's made is a 44-yarder, and he's 3 for 3 on field goals in the range of 40 to 49 yards. He's had an outstanding, very impressive season. He is a sophomore. This is his first season with the Cowboys. Switching to the punter, Tom Hutton, he averages 40 yards per punt, and his longest punt has been 62 yards. So those are two assets that we were talking about earlier. You know, Mike Gundy knows that special teams have been winning the games for the Cowboys this season. So I definitely say that we have the edge. What have you seen with the Sooners?
Well, you know, a little different. I mean, for Oklahoma, to be honest, it's strong, but still just a little weaker. I mean, you look at Oklahoma kicker Gabe Burkich, 12 for 16, so the accuracy is, you know, it's meh.
75%, right?
It is what it is. Now, the thing is, he has range, right? The guy kicked a long field goal of 51 yards, so obviously he has range. 32 of 33 in extra points. Now, an interesting trend to watch is that so Gabe Burkich has recorded a miss in 4 of his last 5 games. Now the punter, Reeves Munchow, a highly touted punter recruit coming out of high school. In fact, one of the top punters in the class of 2016. Unfortunately for the redshirt junior, he's quite honestly struggled a little bit this season. He has a lower punting average distance of just 39 yards. 7 of his 20 punts were fair caught, 4 inside the 20. But Alex, you know, just like with Oklahoma State against Texas and Iowa State, field position will be crucial in this game. And, you know, both teams, special teams need to be sharp. Now, to add to a point that Laney and Parker said earlier about the aggressiveness and, you know, maybe Gundy being too conservative, something that I've noticed is, you know, if you look back against Iowa State late in the fourth quarter, there was 2 opportunities where they had the ball at the, I think it was the 40 and then the 35-yard line. So you had an opportunity for Alex Hale to kick a 58-yard field goal. You had an attempt for, you know, him to really, really test his range and extend the lead, but Mike Gundy and his coaching staff decided to take a delay of game penalty, push the ball back, punt. Now, for them, that one punt did work out. I mean, it was terrific play from Tom Hutton and then Brendan Presley, who we'll talk about. I mean, the crazy story about this guy, last week, or I guess 2 weeks ago against Kansas State, his first ever rushing attempt in a Cowboy uniform.
Right. We haven't seen a lot from him so far this season, like Laney and Parker were saying. I've talked to him about him a lot. You know, he's a freshman out of Bixby, I believe. Just a great kid. Coach Gundy has nothing but high praise to see out of him. On the punt return side, Dylan Stoner has taken every single punt so far this season. And Gundy talked about earlier this season as putting Presley into that position. You know, I think that's an interesting take. You know, maybe tonight, as Laney said, if we don't see him on the offensive side of the ball, we'll see him more special teams, maybe on punt return. Yeah, well, something I wanted to point out, there is no better time for an Oklahoma native to break out in all Oklahoma State rivalry game. I mean, the time is now. Well, I definitely agree that, you know, Cowboys have the edge for sure in special teams tonight. Yep. Laney, Parker, back to you guys.
Thank you guys so much for that. I like what you said, Adam, about this is the time for the guy, the state champion, the Oklahoma State champion, to break out in Bedlam. So
Gatorade Oklahoma Player of the Year, Brendan Presley, a guy that wasn't even recruited by OU. So, I mean, he might have that chip on his shoulder against this team. You see that a lot of times with guys that play for OSU that usually are from Oklahoma sometimes, and they weren't recruited by OU. You see them, you know, have a pretty big impact in this game sometimes. But just kind of talking about more about this game and just what it means. We'll see tonight if we can, if like we were talking about, if Mike Gundy truly, trusts his team. That's, I think, has been the issue for Mike over the years.
Absolutely.
For Mike, for Coach Gundy over the years.
No, we are on a first name basis. We can call him Mike. Okay.
For Coach Gundy over the years is I just don't know if he trusts his players. I can tell you right now, he knows how talented this team is, especially on defense. He trusts his defense. That's why, I mean, you saw in the Kansas State game, there was only 2 minutes left, and he decided to just run it up the gut 3 plays in a row, let K-State spend their timeouts, and trust his defense to stop K-State, which they did. So you got to be able to, have faith in your guys, have faith in your seniors. It's not like they don't want to win this game. They know more than us how much is at stake. They can say all they want during the week that, oh, this is just another game. We prepare like this is just another game. That's not true. This is a team that has scored 60 points in back-to-back games. I understand they were both against two, not very good teams in Texas Tech and Kansas, talking about OU right now. But this OU team is clicking on all cylinders. They've got back Ramondre Stevenson, their starting running back, and he is plowing through people right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, they've not faced a defense like OSU, not even close. So this is a huge game for both teams, and if OU loses this game quickly before we go to break, they'll be a 3-loss team.
Yeah.
The last time that OU was a 3-loss team, I believe, was when Tyreek Hill ran the punt back. So, that was 6 years ago. Both teams are going to lay it all on the line tonight. We'll see if OSU can pull out all those stops like we were talking about.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to go over how this Cowboy defense can lock down the Sooner offense.
Oh, there you go. Superstar.
The end of the practice is when we do all of our intensity drills.
Okay.
She was going at it.
Stop. If we get them to Detroit by, let's say Monday the 15th. Time's right there. There we go. Yeah. Just, you can't.
Don't want to talk about it.
When you see the water tower, you're going to make a right.
If we win this, it's the one way to get to the playoffs. I know.
Welcome back to the pregame report. This defense is going to be essential in today's game. I think they're going to do really well against the OU offense and locking them down. But 2 weeks ago, they did hold K-State to only 18 points. Brock Martin had that 2-point conversion strip that was really nice. And then Trey Sterling late in the game had that interception. And they actually held K-State to 0 for 2 on 2-point conversions. And I think that could really come in handy today, because if it does end up being a close game, we could be seeing 2-point conversions all around.
Here's the news. Colby Harvell-Peel and Trey Sterling are 100% healthy for this game. So our two starting safeties, 2 of our 3 starting safeties, along with Tanner McAllister, that's huge news. Mm-hmm. Those are our best players. Those are guys that are going to play in the NFL. Harvell-Peel got an invite to the Senior Bowl, so along with Rodarius Williams. So, he's our guy. We definitely missed him a lot last week against Kansas State and against Texas when he went out in that game early. So, Jason Taylor played great. His backup, of course, getting that. The ball kind of fell into his lap, but he still was able to run it back to score, which ended up winning the game for us. But the story of this game is going to be is not going to be OU's offense versus OSU's defense, I think, because while those are the two strengths for each team, I think that they'll almost be able to cancel each other out. I think
exactly.
OU's going to get points, people. It's a Lincoln Riley-led offense. They're going to score some points, but I do think that they are going to be limited by this, stellar Oklahoma State defense that has shown they are stellar all year long. I actually, you may have watched it in the Poke Report earlier. I did a defensive breakdown where OSU is of teams that have played at least 6 games, OSU is first in third down defense, which is that's the money down. I mean, that's the most important down of the game, to be able to get your defense off the field.
Yeah, it's been like that all season too. They've consistently been like top in third down conversions.
They're top like 12 in the country in every major defensive statistical category. So it's safe to say that this is the strength of our team. And I trust them. I believe that they can slow down, if not stop, this OU offense, which has not seen a defense this talented. Spencer Rattler, we keep forgetting, through all the touchdowns that he's had, through all the highlights, he's still just a redshirt freshman. He's not played a defense near as talented as this Oklahoma State defense. He's never seen guys like Tyler Lacey, Trace Ford, Brendan Evers, Malcolm Rodriguez. Those guys, are going to be coming after him. If there's someone that I think is going to go all out, it's going to be Jim Knowles in this game. I think he's going to be blitzing. He's going to be moving guys around. He's going to be showing Lincoln Riley that he's up to the task of trying to stop this OU offense. He's an extremely smart guy, coached at Duke, of course. He's going to be ready with the game plan. And so I think a huge part of this game is going to be turnovers. I don't know if I'm just asking for one. I think, honestly, if we can get 1 turnover in this game, that is huge in terms of momentum, because I think Oklahoma State's best bet is to try to slow this game down, because our offense is not good enough to go into a shootout with OU's offense. So I think Gundy and Casey Dunn are going to slow this game down with running the ball with Hubbard and LD Brown. So it's all up to our defense to limit those big plays. That is what's killed OSU in these games. You think back to 2017 with Baker to Hollywood Brown, Kyler Murray to Hollywood Brown, just game-breaking, huge, long passes for touchdowns. That can't happen tonight, but I trust our secondary. I mean, Rodarius Williams talked about it this week in his Zoom call. He said they have good receivers, but we've got a great secondary. So it's just going to be mano-a-mano, Lincoln Riley versus Jim Knowles, who can get the best of each other. But I think that, honestly, OSU's defense is the better unit in this game. I was listening to a radio show before the game, and it was like, who is the better unit, OU's offense or OSU's defense? And the guy who was from OU said, without hesitation, OSU's defense.
Absolutely.
So they know. The people around the country are starting to notice that this OSU defense is something special, and if we're going to win this game tonight, OSU's defense has to play their best game of the season. So, and I think that they're capable of it.
I think so too. The thing that our defense does really well is disguising its coverages. Like, there are just so many things that could happen, and there's sweeps and guys in weird positions, and you don't know why they're there, and it confuses offenses. So that's really what has held us down, I think, this season, and made this defense so like a national ranked defense instead of just what it's been. Also, OU's run game isn't terrible. They're pretty good with TJ Pledger and Seth McGowan, but we were able to limit
Stevenson, their main guy now. The guy that came back from suspension. He's going to definitely play in the NFL.
From suspension, yeah. And 2 weeks ago in Manhattan, the defense was able to stop the ever so feared Deuce Vaughn. So I think that was really kind of preview to what could happen today as well.
Yeah, I trust our run defense. I think that has been a strength of our team as well with the pass defense. I mean, they're all good. So, but this is a totally different Oklahoma offensive line. They've got the best offensive line coach in the country in Bill Bedenbaugh, and they consistently have really talented guys up front. So this is going to be a dogfight in the trenches. But, I trust our guys. I trust Oklahoma State's experience on that side of the ball. They've got a lot of guys, like we talked about, Israel Antwine, Brendan Evers, Tyler Lacey, Trace Ford. So I'm not really worried about OU's run game in this game, because unless it's in the red zone, that's where OU really is super talented, is when they are in the red zone. Because Austin Stogner, OU's star, they call him H-back, he's really a tight end, is out for this game due to an injury. So that's their main red zone threat, and they're not going to have him tonight. So they're going to be looking to try to pound it into the end zone with Stevenson.
Well, run games also open up pass games too, and that's where OU can get deadly. So that's also that thing.
Yeah, I mean, play action, stuff like that is going to be dangerous as always. But OU's bread and butter is the running back counter play where they pull the tackle and the guard, around the left side, and the quarterback can either hand it to them or run it himself. It's extremely hard to cover. But Jim Knowles knows that, and we've got some really talented guys in Eamon Agbon-Bamiga and Malcolm Rodriguez to try to stop that run-pass option. So they're extremely athletic, and they've shown in the past that they can stop that play. So, I mean, last year they had Jalen Hurts, who was basically another running back, and they were able to somewhat neutralize that play. So they've seen it before. Jim Knowles now, it's his third year seeing OU's offense. So I think they're going to have a scheme.
Yeah, and guys like Eamon are really good. Eamon especially, that's what I meant, is really good with that A gap. And so I think that putting that QB pressure there in that A gap is going to be really important this game, just to really rattle Spencer Rattler. So it didn't mean that pun.
So Rattler, we saw early in the season when OU lost their 2 games to Kansas State and Iowa State, he's still a young quarterback, but he was very inexperienced then, and he was able to get, as you said, rattled by heavy pressure. And that's, I think, something that I was talking about. Jim Knowles is going to throw out all the stops. Bundage, Eamon, Malcolm, Trace Ford, Tyler Lacey. They're going to be in the backfield as much as they possibly can tonight, trying to get Spencer Rattler off of his lines, trying to get him outside of the pocket, where then we can put a spy like Trey Sterling, a Christian Holmes to be able to tackle him. Because tonight we cannot get beat by Spencer Rattler getting first downs with his legs. Yeah. That is a game changer. That is something that, I mean, you work so hard to get him to third down. All of a sudden, if he's running for first downs on third down, that is just deflating as a defense. But something that OSU, obviously, as I mentioned, their first and third down defense has not given up. But they haven't faced a quarterback as athletic as Spencer Rattler. So that'll be something to watch tonight.
Absolutely. With Eamon in that A gap and Malcolm in the B on the opposite side, I think hopefully they do end up applying so much pressure to Spencer Rattler. But now let's compare these 2 defenses a little more with Adam and Alex and who has the edge.
Yeah, thank you, Lainey. Alex, let's talk about defense. Who has the edge?
I think that Lainey and Parker covered a lot of good points. I just want to expand on some of those, but I will agree with them. Oklahoma State does have the edge on the defensive side of the ball. Like they said, it is so crucial now that Colby Harvell-Peel and Trey Sterling are both playing. We were kind of talking about it before. We saw on Twitter that they are 100%. Yeah. It's been 2 weeks, so that isn't a lot of time for them to hail. But if they actually will be playing to their full potential, that's something that only tonight we'll be able to tell. Just some stats from the Cowboys defense is that they've been holding our opponents to an average of 17 points per game, which is pretty low, especially, in the Big 12. Normally the offense runs up that score. Something that you and I were talking about earlier in this week is that the game tonight is a battle of 2 top 10 third down defenses in the country. Oklahoma holds their opponents to a 23% success rate on third down conversions, which I think
is 10th.
Yes.
Yeah, is 10th in the nation, and then OSU's third down defense is the best in the country.
It's a really important aspect of the team. Like I said, Gundy has been saying special teams and defense. I believe it was in the Tulsa game. He said, when we were losing, he wasn't worried because he knew that our defense could hold them, and I think that's something that we really need to be watching tonight. Adding on to the quote that Parker mentioned from Rodarius at the end of the quote about that they have good receivers and we have good backs, Rodarius said it's going to be a dogfight, and he was excited for the challenge. And so the team this whole week has been really excited just to try and prove themselves. And Gundy knows, he said that Rattler is going to be the toughest quarterback that the defense has faced. So it'll definitely present some challenges for the defense tonight. But what do you think about the Sooners defense?
Well, the Sooners defense is a lot more repleted at this point, because like Parker was talking about, Ramondre Stevenson, the running back, well, another guy that was also in the same boat, the same suspension boat, if you will, Ronnie Perkins. He's back. He is a star defensive end, 10 tackles in the last 2 games. So he's only played 2 games, and I mean, he's just racked up those tackles. And not only that, but also a sack and a half. So, I mean, his biggest thing is he's a speedy guy. I mean, he can run right through that offensive line and really harass Spencer Sanders. In fact, Perkins is a guy that has recorded 8 hits on quarterbacks in just 2 games. Nick Benito, a star linebacker, right in the middle, the middle secondary for Oklahoma. 5 sacks. I mean, he is a sack machine. Brian Asamoah, another guy that is capable of making big plays. But like you were talking about, this being a dogfight, I mean, guys, at the end of the day, I mean, it's classic rivalry football. It's Oklahoma State.
It'll be a good game.
Yeah, like
for sure.
exactly. Why, it's going to be a dogfight because that's just the nature of the rivalry. I'm so excited. Really can't wait.
I think what Lainey was saying earlier is, that this is the first time in a couple of years that the Cowboys really have a chance to prove themselves. Sure. Going down to Norman is tough for anyone. So I think the Cowboys have a lot to prove tonight. I think especially on the defense. And like you said, there are definitely some star players on the Sooners defense, but the Cowboys have the edge in my opinion.
Yeah, well, something that I just realized, they want to prove themselves. It seems like in past years, the game where Oklahoma State feels the most confident that they have a chance, they are actually, an underdog,
right.
Which is crazy because if you look at the rankings, Oklahoma State is ahead, but, Oklahoma, after that tough start, they've really rattled off, well, I guess that was a pun intended at that point, but they've rattled off some big wins, and something we talked about, the defense. Oklahoma, I mean, the closest thing that they faced to a Oklahoma State defense was what they faced in Texas in a game where momentarily in the second quarter, quarterback Spencer Rattler was benched.
Pulled, right, yeah.
But with that, yeah, you said it, and I agree with you. Oklahoma State has the edge defensively. Lainey, Parker, back to you guys.
Thank you so much again. After the game, we're all going to thesource.com and we are looking up new adjectives because clearly we can't think of anything else, but that's fine.
It's all right. Shaken, that's one that we could have used.
Good job. We could have used that.
Yeah, but, like under duress, but no. Yeah, one thing about the OU defense, their defensive line is, I believe they touched on this, is extremely talented. Like I would say, up there, like in the top 5 in the country. They've got a lot of guys that are really experienced. And of course, Ronnie Perkins, the best player on OU's team. I would say he's probably going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. So to be able to control him, limit, him, he's going up against our best guy in Tevin Jenkins. So it's mano-a-mano, best guy against best guy, and that's an interesting matchup that I'm going to watch tonight.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how Tevin does in that situation. Well, we're going to take another quick commercial break, and when we come back, we will discuss the OSU offense, which is going to be the story of the game today for sure. Welcome back to the pregame report. It's time to talk about this OSU offense because, as we've said, it's going to be the OSU offense versus the OU defense today. And here is the tea. I straight up do not have much faith in Spencer Sanders anymore. And it's like the entire season I've been disappointed but not surprised. We talked so highly of Spencer throughout last season when he was injured and then the beginning of this season. And we were so optimistic.
When he got injured again.
Yes. And I just think I've been optimistic for too long. And again, another man is performing below my standards, okay, in all aspects of my life. So he is a one-read QB, and when his one plan doesn't go the way it should be, when the one guy he wants to throw to is in double coverage and it's not Tylan Wallace, so he knows he can't throw to Tylan, instead of looking other places and not being a one-read QB, Spencer wants to use his legs, which is fine because, you know, he's a dual-threat quarterback and that's what we have him for. But I'm just fed up that he can't read anything else, and it's frustrating, and he's nervous in the pocket, so he doesn't perform well in it, and he panics too easily, which I mean, I would panic if I were there too, but all I'm saying is he is a D1 quarterback for a team that at one point was number 6 in the nation. You can't panic.
I don't have much to add to that. I think you covered it pretty well.
I've been waiting to say that.
But I will say this. I'll play devil's advocate a little bit here.
Go ahead. I know it's coming. I myself.
I agree with everything you're
saying.
I agree with everything you're saying, but I'll play devil's advocate here for a second, in that the line has been really banged up. So he has been running for his life, but it's because he's been dealing with, you know, freshmen at blocking for him. So, but that's no excuse for, you know, the Iowa State game. That's no excuse for, you know, when he played against Texas, those mistakes were eventually what led to our downfall in that game. So you're right. This is his third year in the program. He's been working with a proven guy from the NFL, Tim Rattay, at quarterbacks coach. Of course, Mike Gundy has been known to produce some pretty good quarterbacks. And the fact that he hasn't improved in pocket awareness and medium to short accuracy is really troubling. And in a game like this, that's going to be something that is imperative to winning. Can Spencer Sanders win this game for Oklahoma State? Because right now, we talked about the defense. I think they're going to show up. They're going to do their best and probably succeed in stopping OU's offense, or at least holding them down, holding them to enough points for us to win this game. So can Spencer Sanders, can Chuba Hubbard, can Tylan Wallace, who are key members as usual, can they get enough points in this game? You talked about it. The game hinges on Oklahoma State's offense versus OU's defense. Those are not the strengths of each team. So it's who has a better game plan coming in, and who ultimately can just, you know, grab this game, grab the bull by the horns in the sense, and win. I mean, it's all about winning at this point. Who was the coach that said? Herm Edwards. You play to win the game. So ultimately, that's what I think Mike Gundy needs to be telling this team on offense, saying, have we been banged up? Yes. Have we struggled with turnovers? Yes. We've addressed these issues in practice, and we're healthy now. There's no excuse. The College Football Playoff Committee is watching this game. Of course, I mean, the Big 12, it doesn't really matter, but I'm sure they're watching this game, determining, is Oklahoma State for real? Is this another team like in 2011 that got left out of the BCS National Championship game? Is this our year? This is where we talk about this. Lainey, I know you're not from Oklahoma. I'm born and raised here. Family, you know, rivalry, family members on both sides that care about this game. Leave a legacy. This game determines legacy. You think of names like Rashawn Woods, like Josh Fields, Brandon Whedon. Can Spencer Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, Tylan Wallace leave a legacy in this game? They've lost every single time to OU in their careers. So it's all on the line tonight. Chuba Hubbard, Tylan Wallace, you guys are going to the NFL. That's great. You deserve it. But you came back to beat OU, and you came back to win a Big 12 championship. And it's all on the line tonight in Norman. against a team that is not at full strength. So there's no excuses in this game. There's no excuses for Gundy. There's no excuse for Casey Dunn. And there's no excuse for Oklahoma State, who is at full strength, to not play to the best of their ability tonight. If they get out-coached, if they get, outplayed, that's going to be defeating. That's going to be deflating for sure for this program going forward. I mean, I'm kind of preaching a sermon here.
No, it's okay. I feel the passion. I like it.
I'm preaching a sermon here, and I'm kind of preaching to the
invisible choir.
To the choir here. But we have guys on the outside that haven't been utilized this season enough, I think, in Tay Martin and Langston Anderson, in Jelani Woods, over the middle. So OU is right now, they have some guys out that are on defense. Nothing is confirmed, so I'm not going to name any names. But Jelani Woods is going to be able to be open in the middle of the field. We saw it against Iowa State. He had that touchdown. Since then, we haven't went back to him at all. He's 6'8". I mean, Buki Radley Hiles, his real name is Brendan, is the nickelback for OU. He's at best like 5'9".
Yeah.
We've got a basketball player, essentially, that's going to be lining up against him. In the red zone, if I don't see a throw to Jelani Woods, I'm going to be upset because OU, when they had Stogner, was able to utilize him in the red zone to the best of their ability. He's only 6'6", and not as athletic, I don't think, as Jelani Woods, who used to be a quarterback, a dual-threat quarterback. We switched him to H-back, cowboy back.
There you go. Yeah, Jelani did get used against K-State, but once. And it was for a gain of, I want to say, 10 yards. I mean, it's first down, but...
he's got to be more involved in this game. Dylan Stoner may have been on the 2014 team. No, he wasn't.
2014, hang on, it's 2020.
Yeah, he was not. He was not on the team. So there's not a single person on this OSU team that was there in 2014 that won that game in Norman. So Dylan Stoner, a guy that played well last year against OU. Of course, Spencer Sanders was out. We were dealing with Drew Brown. But I'd like to see him get more involved in his last Bedlam game. So, well, technically not because eligibility doesn't count this year.
True.
But who knows?
It could be.
That's my impassioned plea to Oklahoma State.
No, I feel like we should end the show now. That was really good. But we won't end the show now, but I'm saying that'd be a great
We still have to do buy or
on.
sell. We still have to do our predictions.
Yeah.
But that is my message to Oklahoma State is we've talked about it all season. We've talked about it ad nauseum, the players. We know who they are. We know what they can do. But tonight, it's about just winning. It's about beating the guy across from you. It's about winning every single play. I hear football coaches talk about that all the time, is win every play. Because every play will equal every down, will equal every drive, will equal every game. So that's what Oklahoma State has to do tonight. Spencer Sanders has to show, I was the best high school quarterback out of the state of Texas. I won every award there is to win, and I haven't lived up to that standard here at OSU. I know that I've dealt with injuries and everything, but this is my time. This is what I want to be. I want to be a star quarterback for a major university and win rivalry games, in games that matter so much.
Yeah.
A chance to go to the Big 12 championship, and for Oklahoma State, which I can't say this about any other team in the Big 12, a chance to go to the college football playoff. All the chips are down tonight. Everything is on the line. We'll see how this OSU offense, Mike Gundy, Casey Dunn, Spencer Sanders, respond.
Absolutely. And like you said, for guys, not only Spencer, but guys like Tylen and Chuba who skipped the draft to be here, this could help their draft stock. Right now, both of their draft stocks are not looking that great.
Nope.
So they need this game if they want to get drafted higher, if they want those higher spots. But we had our inspirational cries for help. So let's send it over to Adam and Alex, who has the edge, and hopefully they have some actual offensive information for us.
Thank you, guys. Y'all had a lot of really good insight on the Cowboys, but that I'll unpack in a minute. But first, I know, Adam, you did a lot of research on the Sooners offense. Tell us more about that, and who do you think has the edge for offense?
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Well, I mean, first things first, I guess we can sit here and talk about, the potential of this Cowboys offense, how good it may be, right? How good it might be if Chuba Hubbard plays well, if Spencer Sanders plays well.
That's a lot of ifs there.
Exactly, and that's the thing. With Oklahoma, they don't have those ifs. It's proven. I mean, Oklahoma is one of the best scoring offenses, total offenses, period, in Division I FBS at this point. Oklahoma, 5th highest scoring offense in the country, 10th total offense in the country. Spencer Rattler, a quarterback that has experienced a crazy resurgence in the middle of the season. Remember,
Right.
he got pulled momentarily in the Red River shootout. He learned. He learned. He looked at himself in the mirror. He's like, look, man, I'm a young redshirt freshman. I messed up. I'm not playing well. I need to be better.
And then he changed.
He did. And I mean, in that game, the numbers speak for itself. 209 yards, 65% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, and interception. So far this season, Spencer Rattler, the redshirt freshman, the poster child of Oklahoma, a team that calls him QBU, in 7 games, over 2,000 passing yards,
Right.
21 total touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. I mean, those numbers speak for themselves. So we talk so much about passing. Well, TJ Pledger, a running back who is tied for most touchdowns with Ramondre Stevenson, the guy that just came back. I mean, on Ramondre Stevenson, he's played 2 games. How many touchdowns? 5. 5 touchdowns in 2 games. Do the math. That is good.
Stats don't lie, and I think
They
that's
don't.
something that's very important.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
tonight's game.
stats don't lie. Stats give you an advantage. Stats help. And, you know, of course, just like Oklahoma State, Oklahoma needs to prove themselves. Right? And so they have a freshman wide receiver, Marvin Mims. I mean, he, in my mind, he's a candidate, probably, I guess it's not official, but a candidate for an all Big 12 freshman offensive player of the year, 7 touchdowns. Mims, Rattler, they've already established themselves as one of the top quarterback wide receiver duos in the country. Of course, no Austin Stogner, so that's huge. But
Right.
for
I wanna say
Oklahoma State,
something.
let's talk.
You know, you're talking about the passing yards for the Sooners.
Yeah.
Cowboys only have 1,300 passing
Yeah.
yards. So that's almost a whole 1,000. That's 1,000
Yeah.
yards less than the Sooners' offense there. Something that we've been talking about is injuries on the defensive side. The offensive line has been struggling all season. I know after the K-State game, Coach Gundy said that he didn't know who was in for the offensive line because they were just switching so much back and forth.
Yeah.
But, you know, Jake Springfield will be back at left tackle, which means that Josh Sills can move back to
Yep.
left guard. That is crucial. So hopefully the offensive line can stay strong and, you know, give Spencer some time. I do know it is important. I don't think Laney and Parker mentioned it, that both Spencer Sanders and Spencer Rattler, this is their first Bedlam game.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right? And
Spencer versus Spencer.
Right. And they are very similar quarterbacks in that they are dual threat.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, Rodarius was talking earlier this week that he knows that Spencer, being that dual threat, will present some challenges for the OU's defense, something new that they haven't really dealt with so far this season. This, you know, still, as Laney was saying at the start of the segment, this is Spencer's chance to prove himself. You know, he's had numerous chances. He has said he's apologized for, you know, how he's been playing and his mistakes. This is only his 4th game this season with that injury. You know, does he have what it takes in this Bedlam game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited. I can't wait. But something I wanted to mention, you said Spencer Sanders' first Bedlam game. Well, last year, Tylan Wallace didn't play. I mean, remember, in 2018, Tylan Wallace had probably one of the best games in his career. But like we talk so much, I mean, like Parker said, everything is on the line. I mean, rivalry games are where legends are born, stories are told. I mean, you know, these are games where you know, kids will grow up and tell their grandkids about the stories. I mean, it's huge. I can't wait. It's Bedlam, it's football, it's November, it's raining, it's good weather, and it's a good time. So with that, I think we are going to go to Buy or Sell, a great segment to end the show. So we're going to start off with you, Laney. Oklahoma State defense. They win, or I guess Oklahoma State defense wins the 3rd down conversion battle. Buy or sell?
I'm going to buy it. Like we mentioned, we're number 1 in the nation for that. You know, if OU scores more, obviously they can do it on non-3rd down conversions. So, yeah, I could buy it. I think all my predictions for this game are going to be very kind of on the fence, but I'm going to buy this.
Parker.
Honestly, I don't really care how I perform in this segment, as long as we win.
Yeah.
So
Same.
For this one, I'm gonna buy it as well, simply because if we're going to win this game, I think that we have to win 3rd down. That's something that we've struggled with in the past. A lot of those huge pass plays were on third down, just completely deflating to the defense. So, yes, I am going to buy OSU's defense.
And Parker, speaking about you not caring about your performance, just to remind y'all, 2 weeks ago, Lainey, unfortunately, you had a rough week. You were 0 for 4.
Yeah, baby.
And Parker, you kind of Professor Predictions was not so Professor Prediction.
I will say
predictions. You were 1 for 3.
We did not know though that a lot like Chuba was going to be hurt the whole game.
Right. Sure. That
Trey
is true.
Sterling was going to be hurt the whole game, and both of those guys were in the buy or sell. Just saying, just an addendum.
Overall,
okay,
13 and
so
15, that's not bad.
We're going to start with Parker this time. Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler is held to less than 250 passing yards. Are you going to buy or are you going to sell?
I'm going to sell that. I think that he can get a lot of yards, but that doesn't mean that there's a lot of points.
Sure.
Lincoln Riley has been known to resort to, just like short chunk pass plays, and I think that Spencer Rattler is a good enough quarterback to be able to utilize that. I think OSU can definitely play a bend, don't break defense tonight, and it's not hard for an Oklahoma quarterback to get over 250 yards.
Lainey?
This is hard because I think if OU wins, it's because Spencer Rattler has more than 250 yards. Yeah. And if we win, it's because he has less than 250. If we lose, it's because he had more.
Sure.
So in this case, it's going to be awkward, but I'm going to, is it buy it? How is it phrased?
Yeah, so,
I think
you're
he'll get
gonna
more
buy.
So
than
then,
250.
so
then you're
then,
selling
in
it.
this
then
case,
I'm
you would
selling
sell it. Yeah.
Okay, I think he'll get more than 250.
Honestly, Lainey,
just because I think that pass game could really be strong.
I think we lose this game if we see a stat line like 430 yards.
Yeah.
Five touchdowns.
yeah, I think so too.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's pretty easy to get 250 plus for OU.
All right, you go.
All right, so next up, LD Brown. Last week he had a great game because Chuba didn't really play much. He was kind of injured. Do you think that he will have another 100-yard game? Lainey?
I'll buy it for the sake that I think Chuba is going to get locked down. The OU defense is just going to be all over him because they've seen how different the team has to play without him and how LD has to step up. So, yeah, I'll do that.
That would
just
be his
because
third 100-yard game. He had 103 against West Virginia and 110 against K-State. So.
Yeah, I could see him doing that for sure.
Parker?
Those are two of the top 4 defenses in the conference in West Virginia and Kansas State. But I'm going to sell this. Hopefully Chuba is the focus tonight and he is healthy, and that paired with a fully healthy offensive line, he's able to get going. And if he's cooking early, if he's playing well, I think they're going to just hammer him as much as they can because he is, when healthy, Chuba Hubbard is, the best running back in the country, or at least the second best. So he hasn't shown that this year, but again, this is his last Bedlam game, and I think that he cares a lot. So he's going to want to go out here and play the best that he can. But I'd be pleasantly surprised if LD Brown got over 100 yards for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. I hope LD gets another 100-yard game. He's always really happy in the post-game interviews for sure. All right, last buy or sell. OSU defense forces at least 2 turnovers. Parker, buy or sell?
I'm going to buy it based simply on OSU, their defense has to play well on third down, and they need to get turnovers if we're going to win this game. So in order for OSU to win, this would mean that these things would happen, so I'm going to buy them. I think that Spencer Rattler, I can definitely see, like a strip sack happening, and then hopefully a game-sealing interception. So that would be 2 turnovers, and I hope that, something like that happens.
Lainey?
I'm going to take it because against Kansas State, we had a 2-0 turnover differential, and we love to see that. We love to see the turnovers going our way, and so because our defense, we predict, is going to be so strong, I could see them getting 2 turnovers,
For sure. It's definitely something that, if they can get that, it'll make the game for sure tonight.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So now I believe it is time for our predictions. If we could please get that graphic up. I guess I will start. I mean, so here is the disclaimer. I guess I will speak for all 4 of us in the case that we sincerely hope our predictions are wrong.
Yes.
But
Yes.
in this case, well, Parker, do you have something to add?
Also, we all didn't know coming into this game that this game was almost canceled or postponed because of COVID in the OU program, and we were almost going to play Baylor. Apparently, that news is coming out today. Trickling out through the media. So this was before we knew that OU was going to be missing guys like Jaden Hazelwood. They're going to be missing guys like Austin Stogner.
Yep.
But
So maybe we're all wrong.
Well,
I
do hope we're all wrong, but I'm just going to preface that by saying that we had no idea that the dynamics. We didn't know who was going to play for OSU. We didn't know who was going to play for OU, and I think that may have factored into our predictions.
Yeah, well, and then the other thing I guess you viewers back home can keep in mind is that these predictions, we have some sort of a deadline. So most of us predicted this on Thursday evening without having that news. But with that being said, I believe Oklahoma will get the win at home 38-28.
I have mine being a little closer. I had it 38-35. I believe in the Cowboys that they can make it close. I do think that it will be a pretty high-scoring game.
Absolutely.
We talked about how explosive OU's offense is, and hopefully the Cowboys will be able to pull through on the offensive side of the ball as well. It was hard for me to pick OU. You want the Cowboys to win. Go Pokes all the way. But I will say in one of the interviews, Rodarius Williams, he said, don't count us out.
Yeah.
Don't sell us short. Trace Force, he's like, I love a good underdog story. This is our chance. We are that underdog in this game for sure. And he said, Rodarius said, we're going to get hit hard. And I think that's something that all four of us can agree is that the Sooners are not going to be an easy opponent for the Cowboys.
Not at all.
But he said how important it is how they bounce back and how they react to the hits from the Sooners tonight. So hopefully we're all wrong and the Cowboys can pull it out.
Yep.
But, I do give the upper hand to OU ultimately.
Yeah.
Laney Parker?
So, again, I was not optimistic about Oklahoma State's offensive line being healthy, and I'm glad to know that they are, because frankly, OU's defensive line is the strength of their team.
Mm-hmm.
They're solid up front as anybody in the country. They're led by experienced guys that will play in the league. So knowing though that we are going to be healthy, I don't know if my prediction would have changed at all, but I predicted OU to win 31-20. I've seen this story before. Of course, being an OSU fan, my whole life. But hopefully I'm wrong. And if OSU, I'll give this. If OSU is to win this game, I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, and I can see something like 28-25 OSU winning, or 28-20, even 27. So it's going to be lower scoring than you would think, especially with how good both defenses are. But we'll see if Oklahoma State can pull out all the stops to get what would be the biggest win since 2011.
Mm-hmm. Well, I went with 34-28 OU, so here's to hoping that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
For my credibility, had to go with
Again,
OU.
I don't care about my predictions.
Yeah,
Professor
same.
Prediction is on
That is off the
sabbatical
table this week.
sabbatical this week, as long as OSU wins.
Absolutely. Mine was just based on recent performance, not knowing who's going to be healthy and who is, history in Bedlam. So, yeah, I said 34-28 OU, like a one-score game, maybe 2 field goals in there if defenses do their thing. But the Cowboys are getting ready to take the field in Norman, so make sure you guys head over to ABC for that game. That's all we have for you today. For myself, Parker, Adam, and Alex, thank you so much for watching. Have a good game day.
Good show, guys. Good show. Well done.
There you go. Superstar.
The end of the practice is when we do all of our intensity drills.
Okay.
She was going at it.
Stop. If we get them to Detroit by, let's say Monday the 15th. Right there. There we go. Yeah. Just, you can't.
Don't want to talk about it.
When you see the water tower, you're going to make a right.
If we win this, it's the one way to get to the playoffs. I know.